Hey everyone, this is Ken from Neon Goldfish. In this episode of the Neon Noise Podcast, Justin and I explore specific questions you should ask when hiring a website designer. This is often challenging for a lot of business owners because they just don't know the right questions to ask or what to look for to help them weed out the bad from the good and the good from the exceptional. We dive into areas that you should focus on to make sure you can tell the difference between someone that's going to give you the website you envision rather than someone that might turn your project into a nightmare. Accompanying this episode is a downloadable PDF that covers all the major areas we touch on and a worksheet you can use while interviewing each website designer to make sure you hit all the main points. This PDF can be found in the show notes at neongoldfish.com/podcast. We hope our conversation will give you the knowledge and confidence in choosing the right person or company for your next website project. Enjoy.
Hey everybody, this is Justin and Ken with Neon Noise.
How we doing, everyone?
Today, we are going to discuss some helpful tips on what to look for when hiring a web designer. Ken, how's it going over there today?
It is going fabulous today. I'm kind of excited to talk about this topic of going through the process of hiring a website designer because it's not an easy one for the average business owner.
It is not.
No. I mean, think about some of the bad experiences that we hear when we get that first meeting, Justin.
Oof, my website disappeared. Where did it go, Ken? Where did it go?
Right. Oh, like the one that that was being worked on. There's no longer good there.
Yeah. No, I mean, it just happens often, too often. People come and, I've had my website. It's been developed. It's been getting developed for, 9, 10, 12 months. And, we thought it was something that was going to take 5-6 weeks. And,
sure.
How often does
when my
that
kid
happen?
got braces and the braces are off, right?
Too often. That you get that often. You hear the the updates. They just never happen, and I can't find the person that has my domain anymore. Just we hear it all the time.
Sure. Or my favorite is when someone had something built, they paid for, or they thought they were getting an apple, and the designer thought that they were quoting an orange and delivered an orange, and
sure,
the person's looking for the apple, right? There's communication. Just
all communication. You'll get the call about my SEO, everything. We thought that our website was going to show up on page 1, page 2. Once we had our website developed, and it's on page 30.
Sure, they just thought that the website being live and present was going to lead to search engine exposure, which isn't.
It's just not the case.
No, not at all.
Not anymore.
And so what we want to talk about today is how will they know if the person, how they're going to find out if the person they choose is the right one.
Sure.
So for the sake of the conversation today, I think that we want to, we should talk about the different types of sources a business owner could go to for getting a website. Now, the first platforms, the do-it-yourself platforms, you have the Wix, the Squarespace. What are a couple of the others, Justin?
Wix and Squarespace are the big ones.
Shopify, GoDaddy.
GoDaddy's got one. These are platforms that are positioned for somebody that they've got a lower budget, or they want to do it themselves. Somebody that's got some time on their hands that they can actually take care of this stuff by themselves. Sure.
And they're in their lower cost platforms. So you're basically exchanging your time in learning the platform and doing it yourself for that cheaper cost.
Sure.
And the other two are freelancers and website companies or digital agencies. And we're going to, for the sake of this conversation, we're going to focus on the latter two here. Freelancers, they're going to be single individuals. They range from being very experienced to right out of the gates, bought a book at Barnes & Noble last week, and they read it, and now they're a website designer. But there's a mixture of there's some very good ones out there I'd love to have work for us here at Neon Goldfish.
Absolutely.
So I think it's important to identify the sources that a business owner can go to for a website. There's three in particular that I want to talk about real quick. The first is the do-it-yourself platforms. They're going to be the Wix, the Squarespaces, the GoDaddies, the Shopifys, these low-cost platforms that you can go to and actually build your own website from one of their templates. The others are freelancer, the individuals that build websites for companies. And the third is a website company or a digital agency. And so we're going to concentrate on the latter two because the do-it-yourself platforms really don't apply here. And we're going to go ahead and discuss about 11 different areas that will help identify or have some point topics that will help identify some proper questions to ask to make sure that you're making the right choice when you're looking at a new website designer. So let's get started with process, Justin.
Yeah, let's dive in. I think processes is definitely a good starting point. Do you think it's important to have processes in place?
Do I absolutely think yes. The importance of a process really tells a couple things here. Obviously, if they have a process in place, it shows that they've have some organization and structure in their company as far as how I see things. So I think a great question just to start off with is asking them, do you have a process?
All right, so let's get into some things to consider. I think that processes is a great starting point. What do you think, Ken? Is it important to have processes in place?
Well, absolutely. I think that a process is going to show organization. It's going to show structure. Not having a process would be a little bit alarming, don't you think? I mean,
I agree.
I think having a process shows me, or it allows me to understand, or if you're asking this to someone, it shows that they've done this before, that they have an established methodology that's going to say, after this step, we're going to do this.
We're going to go to this.
Right.
Correct.
And so you as a business owner, you're not going to know what's the first step or the second step or the third step. That's why you're hiring a web designer, right?
Absolutely.
And so relying on their expertise and knowing and trusting that they have an established process, they're going to be your guide through this process. It's important. And so point blank, ask them, what is your process from start to finish?
How would you feel about going in and actually seeing, can I stop in next week and, just see what your process is like, see how your staff works? I feel that, a hands-on experience there would be, extremely helpful to be able to understand how your project's going to take place.
Absolutely. And that wouldn't be a horrible angle to go. I mean, you think about that, you can see the operation. I mean, if you were a manufacturer and you were having a fabricator build a part for you, you'd want to go see how, especially if you're going to spend $100,000 on a particular a piece of equipment being built, you'd want to check out their facilities and see. Now, websites can cost $100,000 and something along those lines, but you still want to check out and see what that operation looks like. So getting a glimpse, and if it doesn't, if they are a freelancer, let's say, and they don't have an office, they work from their home, having them outline the process and show how those steps are going to go along the way is super important.
Yeah. I would say next in line, which is just as important in the process, is your communication throughout the project and understanding how you're going to communicate with each other. What's the best method to contact each other during the project? Sure.
Yeah. I mean, are we going to exchange phone calls? Are we going to have
emails?
Is it going to be emails? Are we going to have all face-to-face meetings, or will they be virtual meetings on Skype? Or understanding how that goes, and that plays into the process. Throughout the process, step one, we have a project kickoff meeting, and then I'm never going to see you again until the project launches, right? So just understanding the mode of communication, and then additionally, do they have any tools that will be involved in the communication of your project? At Neon Goldfish, we use a project management platform called Teamwork, which is similar to very popular Basecamp. which we used to use. And I couldn't imagine running a project here at Neon Goldfish without the teamwork platform.
It would be extremely difficult in order to do so.
Absolutely.
Just what happens when you're not available, when the person that your main contact, he's no longer available? How do I have somebody else solve my problem?
Sure.
Is there a way for me to send a message or a phone call? Do you have a support system set up? If you have, if you've got a project management platform in place, it makes it just that much easier to be able to communicate with the rest of the team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In that platform, that project management platform, it helps do a lot. It keeps a collective log of all conversations, what tasks are needed to be done, the files involved. But I think more importantly, it also helps establish and keep track of our next topic, which is timelines, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so timelines themselves are important to have, right?
It's extremely important to have. I mean, let's look back at our, the reason that people call us. Why is my website taking so long? If you've got timelines established, then, it eliminates some of those problems that people are having initially when they contact us.
Oh, sure. And being followed. Let's be honest. I mean, timelines are needed, but the timelines themselves being established and followed are important.
What happens when a timeline's missed?
Sure, absolutely. And what's the protocol there? And when you establish these timelines, how realistic are they? Because all right, sure. Justin, I mean, we've had websites we've done in quick turnarounds, and we've had them take long periods of time because the clients disappear. But
where did they go? Did they go on vacation?
Right, exactly. But when we look at the timelines that are established, sometimes projects end up being out of scope on a timeline. And then how is that managed? What is, because let's face it, business owners are busy running and operating their business. While they want a website developed, it's not their top priority oftentimes. And if they're managing that project themselves, it very easily could come to a point where the project requires their attention and they're not around. And so how are timelines managed? How are timelines established? Or the web designer could get out of scope as well, and they get too busy, or unfortunately they do disappear. But you gotta look at these timelines and really try to identify and adhere to them, because you think about the cost of what a missed timeline costs either the client or the business owner that's having the website built, or what it costs the agency or the freelancer that's building the site. So timelines are important for both parties to be established and followed.
Completely agree. Make sure you've got your established timelines in place before you start your project.
Absolutely.
All right. So what about guarantees? We didn't get what we agreed upon when we started our project. Is that something that I should be concerned about if a company doesn't have any type of guarantee?
Yeah. I mean, you can look at, I don't think that every company you come across is going to have a guarantee. Some will, some won't. It's, I think, good to ask if they do, or at least bring that conversation up and say, sure, hey, what happens if we don't accomplish, you don't deliver what we agreed upon? Or
are you going to stand behind your work?
Exactly. I mean, at Neon Goldfish, what's our guarantee? It's we're going to keep working on your
until
project.
You're satisfied.
Until you're 100% satisfied. And while that's not really a guarantee. It's not the Applebee's, we'll have your lunch in 30 minutes or it's free. No, it's not that. But we're standing behind our work. We're going to guarantee that your satisfaction is achieved. And so it could be something as simple as that, or it could be if a timeline's missed, you get
something's reflected in the end.
Exactly. It's a 10% discount, and that may be something that you agree upon in the contract. A guarantee is, and so it's worth asking and exploring what type of guarantees or how confident they are, because a guarantee is going to show them, either they're going to cower and kind of hide from the question, or they're going to maybe puff their chest out a little bit and be like, I'm very proud of my work, and you'll see the confidence level and get a good feeling from that as well.
All right. So let's get into skill set. What if I'm a company and I come to you and I want an e-commerce website developed, and I just simply don't know what type of skill set should be required in order to do so?
Sure. So that's a tough one, because a lot of times this is where we venture into the technical world, and where I think some of the lingo comes up that the average business owner might be intimidated by. They're just not familiar with it. And I don't think that they need to understand what exact coding languages are going to be used. But I think that it's important that they know the person they're hiring is experienced and skilled and the needed.
It's not going to be something that's going to be coming out of a box.
Exactly. So what are some options there, or some things that you'd have there's some threats there, or some things to look out as the wannabe developers, like you just said, Justin, the things that come out of a box. There's a lot of prepackaged, directories in a box, or, you got some e-commerce in a box, which I'm not gonna say they're bad, because you think of some of the platforms we use, like WordPress and Magento, to build e-commerce platforms.
They're already developed.
They're open source foundationally, but you have to be skilled in development to turn those into good looking websites and make them do what you want them to do, right?
Sure.
So it's important to ask the person that you're working with what experience they have, what platforms they use, what coding languages they're experienced with, who's doing the coding. And we'll touch on that a little bit more in a second. But the purpose and understanding and really feeling confident that they have the skill set they need is so that your project is going to be in good hands and moves along on a good basis. When I touched on that real quick on who's going to be doing the coding, I was referencing the next item I want to bring up is the use of subcontractors. And so subcontractors, they're not necessarily bad, are they, Justin?
They're not particularly bad, but I don't know if they just get a bad name in our business or not. We use subcontractors for a lot of the different items that we're just not experts at. We're not experts at video and audio and stuff along those lines. So there's a great need for using subcontractors. Sure,
absolutely. And I think it fills the void. In where I think the use of subcontractors should be brought up, because you need to understand from the person
who's doing the work.
Who's doing the work? Is it being done in-house? Is it being subcontracted?
How much of it? Yep. How much is being outsourced?
Absolutely. Because if it's the core components of your project, then you have to ask this question: what happens when
I need to get something fixed?
Exactly, down the road. Because after the project's all said and done, things will likely break.
Sure.
Could they not? Sure. But there are going to be things that happen. There's going to be hiccups that happen. And use of subcontractors makes that a little bit more challenging to get fixes done after the fact, because at that point, everyone's been paid. The money's been handed out. And let's go back to the guarantee. Let's say that the person you worked with has a guarantee. I'll stand behind my work. Great. I need you to stand behind your work, because
who's going to pay for that?
There's a bug there. Now, who's going to pay for that? They're going to give you resistance, because they got to pull money out of their pocket to get that fixed from the subcontractor. And so, again, use of subcontractors aren't bad, especially for certain skill sets that maybe you don't have on your team or you don't possess yourself. But know in advance how heavily used subcontractors are going to be, and ask what happens down the road when we do have an issue and it's 3 months post launch.
Yeah.
Something I'm getting an error on my site. How does that get fixed? And what does that cost me? And if it's, that could happen and it's going to cost you X amount of dollars an hour. You may say, okay, that's not a problem. I'm willing to pay for that maintenance or that ongoing upgrades. They may say our guarantees will stand behind our work for 6 months. And after that, so just know the answers to all these questions in advance so that you don't get to that point and you get upset and there's finger pointing, right?
Exactly. All right, let's talk a little bit about portfolios. Is having a strong portfolio important?
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, what makes why do you think a portfolio is important, though, Justin? Or why do you think the strong portfolio is important?
Well, I think that, if you've got a project in mind that you're looking to get developed, and you go to company XYZ and maybe they don't have anything that's similar to your project in their portfolio, does that raise red flags? Is it a concern? Or, at what point do you, I don't know. I mean, do you think that is a red flag?
It may or may not be. It depends. I mean, if you're looking for it on their website before you contact them, they might just choose not to have their portfolio there. I mean, we did that for a long time. We said, "Hey, we don't want to list our portfolio because we don't want to show who our clients are."
I don't think that we updated it for about 2 years.
That's probably the case too. But at any rate, you can ask them for examples of their work as well, though, and I think it's important to ask for, because you want to see what their best work is. And if they're, you're looking for an e-commerce site to be developed and they don't have one they've developed and designed and developed to show you, or if some of their websites look like some of the sites you designed back in the late 90s, Justin, not to say your design skills were bad back then and they were above par.
Hey, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I do know that some of those sites are still live and doing well.
I'm sure that they are. We'll have to do a lookout. Maybe we'll tweet us at Neon Goldfish if you can find any of Justin's circa 1999 websites out there.
I love it.
Fun stuff. So with the portfolio, definitely ask them for some examples of their work. And then to follow up with that, references. So ask them for examples of their work.
Huge area.
But let's talk about references. References are huge. I think that
we never get asked for references. It doesn't happen. And I think that that's an area that, people are missing out on. You've got the opportunity to speak directly to individuals that have done work with this company. You can ask them, pretty much any other question that you're still concerned about. And if they've just recently worked with that company, who better to talk to than somebody that, has their experience?
Sure. And you might be thinking references, that's fine, but nobody's going to give a bad reference. But
yeah, I agree.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, it's like a testimonial. We put a bad testimonial on our website. But here's an example that I recently had that I'd like to share. I began over the last year or so, I've been asking our clients when we're doing the website training after the project kind of been built and pretty much in its state that is going to live on the web. We're doing website training. I always ask them at the end of the training, what Neon Goldfish could have done better during the process of the project build. In this particular instance, I thought we crushed it. I thought that we knocked the ball out of the park, that we answered and attended to every want and need that this client had. And they're like, well, we're kind of disappointed with, not giving enough instruction on during the product upload. We felt like at the beginning, we didn't quite know what to do. And I'm oh my gosh, I
wouldn't even have guessed.
I would have never guessed. And they seemed very happy. They're like, hey, well, they even recommended us to one of their vendors already at this point. So I'm thinking to myself, I assumed I had a great reference and a great report.
Yeah.
But until I asked, and the reason I bring the story up is these are the things that sometimes will be brought up when from a reference. Yeah. When you call them directly and the person you're considering hiring isn't on the phone, you might get rave reviews, but you also might get a little bit of honesty of, hey, they're great, but
by the way,
be sure
this could have gone a little bit different.
Yeah, be sure you press them on their guarantee because they can. And so asking for references is, I think, an important thing that you could gain some real good insight on what from some of their perceived very best customers, and ask them some really tough questions on, hey, what were the things that they did great, and what were the things
they do bad?
They could have done better. Correct.
Yeah. Bottom line, ask questions.
Absolutely.
All right. So the next big one is going to be cost. Cost.
Giant gorilla in the room, right?
How many times do we get through our presentation and, hey, everything looks great. However, man, that is really a lot more money than I thought it was going to be.
Sure. And that happens, right?
Yep. You're going to have, it's just something that, looking at the amount of cost of the project versus the actual value that you're going to be getting, right?
Oh, sure. I mean, you got the argument cost versus value, and the old cliche, you get what you pay for, does apply here. But I think it's important to understand what you're paying for, because if you're going to evaluate multiple vendors, understand what they bring to the table from a lot of the things we've already discussed and some of the things that we'll still touch on, but thoroughly understanding, they're asking the right questions to really gauge what it is you're being charged for. Because a lot of times the actual cost at the end of the day doesn't include everything it should. Does it include the hosting?
What do you mean? There's add-ons?
Well, exactly.
Come on. There's not add-ons to projects.
Sure. Come on. Imagine that, right? So think about this. All right. What's one of the biggest cost pieces of projects we do? It's content creation, right?
Content creation, huge. Yes. Big costs.
Include content creation in every one of our projects.
To an extent.
I mean, but for the main reason is business owners are busy and they need help with creating that copy.
Yep.
So we've had instances, another bad experience example of, they built me a website, but I had to write all the words for the pages and add them at the end. They basically built the shell. And I asked them, did you understand that was going to be the case going into it or not? And it was one of those, well, the price was cheap. And I said, yes. And
yeah, but I mean, if you look back, probably a couple years ago, copy creation for us wasn't really included either in the main price.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And so understanding everything that's involved in the project and understanding all the components that add up to that price will help you better understand when that price is revealed and you get the response of, oh, that's a lot cheaper than I thought it was going to be, or wow, that's more than I anticipated. You're twice as much as the last person I talked to.
What about ongoing cost, Ken?
Yeah, I mean, you think about like maintenance or marketing or things along those lines.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that you want to touch on because we're really focusing on the project cost of the build, but not to don't forget to really ask questions too about hosting. The website has to live somewhere so it can be accessed through a browser by the general public. So ask about hosting. Who's going to handle the hosting? Your web developer may insist that they host the site, and you may want to consider doing so. Or you might choose to go to a hosting provider like Bluehost or GoDaddy or Rackspace, or there's thousands of them out there to choose from that are very low cost. Understand what the costs are involved with that ongoing marketing. If there's going to be search engine optimization or content creation.
That's an extra cost?
Surprisingly, yes. Just having a website.
Hey, there's a lot of companies that they think that that's not an extra cost, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a common question we get asked, right? Is search engine optimization included in the cost of the project, right? And SEO is if you don't know this, SEO is not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process.
I thought that all I had to do was update my page titles and my meta tags.
Back in the day,
that's not true anymore.
Yeah, for those circa 1999 websites that you have still performing very well.
Hey, they still show up in the SERPs too.
Right, exactly. So no, it understand all that's involved in if you aren't sure, ask.
Right. So speaking of the old, outdated methodology of SEO, that kind of rolls into how important content is nowadays, don't you think?
Yeah. Content is probably the most important component of the site.
Have you ever heard that?
Say that again.
Content is king.
Content is king. Yes, that is another common saying in the world. Content is king. It does rule. It used to be one of those, yeah, right. I'd have good content. Now it's ever important. And so we talk about, SEO and how much content plays into the importance of sort of showing up well in the search engines. But really, content is even more important to your site visitors.
Mm-hmm. It's not just the copy on your website, is it? I mean, there could be video and audio and stuff along those lines that it plays a big role in as well.
Absolutely. No, and the content doesn't just hold the form of text. There's video, there's audio,
right?
There's animation, there's photos, graphics, illustrations. All that pulls together your message.
Sure.
And your message needs to be consistent, and the importance of your message needs to be driven, focused around who your target market is, your buyer persona that you want to speak to, the site visitors.
Right.
Because where so many websites are lost is they gain traffic. They work so hard to build traffic, to generate traffic, to get to the website, and the traffic disappears.
How come I don't have any leads, Ken?
Exactly.
How come I don't have any leads?
And that's because the content's poor and they don't have strong calls to action and conversion opportunities, things along those lines. So the content plays much more important role than it ever did before. And I think we get so wrapped up in the design of the site, what the pixels are going to look like on the mock-up.
Make it look special and have pop, right? What is
jazzy,
it? Make it pop.
That's right.
Hey, can you make it pop and get me leads at the same time? Is that possible?
It is possible, right? Content.
Right. So, who's responsible for that content? Is that something that we're going to do, or is that something the client's going to have to provide?
That's the questions to ask and to know and understand. It is who is going to create that content. It asks if you want the web designer to create the content, get some examples of what their content's like. Ask what their experience is. Who's going to write that content? Neon Goldfish, we do subcontract out a lot of content because we create a lot of content.
So much of it.
We have writers we've vetted that we do auditions for each client. We want to make sure that they understand who the client is, the buyer persona that we're targeting, the topics that we're writing about. So ask the questions of who's writing the content, and then if they are, then how that process is going to go. What's going to be involved? If it's going to be the copy creation for the website itself, it's going to be ongoing blog posts. Is it going to be ghostwriters, or however you're going to go about that? But just ask those questions. Understand who and how that content is going to be created, because it is important. And if content's not a focal point of the person that you're working with,
you should probably look in a different direction.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. I mean, if they're not focused on the content, they're really focused on, we all want great design. We all want beautiful looking websites, but the message is what is going to make your website do what it's supposed to do: generate leads, educate, all those fun things. Brand your business better. The education or the information that's on there is going to be the difference maker.
Right. We've had some other issues with content in the past with some companies that, we should probably address too, is just the fact that, you can't just go and grab stuff from the internet anymore. There's copyright issues, and, make sure that the company is using a reliable source to gather your information that you're going to be putting on your website. Because guess what? You're responsible for that in the end of the day, not them. So if, maybe they grabbed an image and put it on your website and they didn't pay for it,
sure,
it happens, and it's happened to us. So just something to be
Yeah, be sure.
Clear
Yeah, be
up.
sure the content you create is unique. It's not copied and pasted from another website. Or yes, the biggest mistake what Justin's referencing is
Videos, photos.
photos.
Copy.
I mean, photos are a big one right now. The rights to use of photos. There's plenty of royalty-free stock photo sites. If the client, if you don't have your own photography, you can go get stock photos. They're fairly cheap, and they may or may not be cheaper than the cost of doing a photo shoot. But don't go to Google and right click and save image as and put it on your website, because here's what's out there. There's companies that have software that crawls the web, and it works a lot like the fingerprint software that the police use, where they recognize pixel combinations, and they look and see, hey, we've matched up a photo we own to this website over here, and let's cross-reference that against our database. Oh, look, they don't have record of owning a license for the use of this photo. Let's send them a nasty letter. And it's a I don't know if it's a scam, I don't know if it's legit, but they send a demand letter, something crazy like $1,600 per use of image. And
it would have cost you $4.
That would have cost you for $4 to get the rights to
$4 instead.
And so
you've got $1,596 going out to Getty Images.
Exactly. And then you're like, okay, cool. Do I hire an attorney that's going to cost me $3,000 to fight this? And it's just a crazy situation.
Suck it up and pay it.
So, long story short, make sure your copy is strong, unique, and is created for you. That the photos, the images, everything else used on your site, because that's going to make or break the total effectiveness of your site, whatever the goals that it might be.
100% agree with you. So good copy often leads to people finding your website.
Yep.
And marketing. How come I've got 3,000 people that are coming to my website every single month, and I get 2 form submissions? Is that even possible?
Yeah, it is.
Is it possible?
It's very possible. I mean, you think about it.
Does it happen a lot?
I mean, you think about building a store in the busiest intersection in town, and when you open the store, the shelves are empty and it looks dusty and dirty in there. I mean, it's all appearance and the conversion, but integrating, marketing integration is super important. If you have a marketing strategy, it's important to talk about that with the person you're going to hire. Are you doing? So
would it be good to have that discussion while you're developing your website, before you're developing your website, or after?
I think it's before is the obvious choice there. I mean, understanding what is going to, what's going to be taking place after the site launches, what type of marketing, because consumers these days, they're driven to doing their own research. And let's say you have a TV commercial out there, right? The TV commercial lasts 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, depending on the spots that you buy. But that shelf life is gone. You'd be silly not to drive that traffic to your website and try to convert, or at least tell your story more. And so setting up your website with that in mind is important to all your other marketing efforts.
Right. So would you say that generally your marketing would be included in your initial design cost, website cost, or is it an add-on?
No, that's definitely an add-on. I mean, ongoing marketing has ongoing costs, ongoing labors. There's that. This isn't anything that's going to be included in the initial cost of the build. But some of the things that you can consider being part of that initial build cost is having landing pages, a template. Let's say you're working in WordPress. You're going to have the website designer says, hey, I'm working in WordPress. And what type of marketing do you like to do? And your response is, I have TV, radio campaigns. I like to do some paid search advertising. They should set you up with a landing page. So I should send
people to a landing page?
And they should set you up with a landing page that you can edit and create and start brand new, because you're going to get better conversions off that landing page than you would be driving that directly to your homepage.
To a homepage. Yeah. So I can't even begin to tell you how many times that I go and I click on an AdWords campaign and it goes directly over to the index page.
Yeah. And then it's the front door. You're like, okay, I was looking for something specific. Now,
where do I go next?
And you end up getting lost because you get distracted by something else on the way. No, yeah, you definitely want to drive all your marketing efforts through a landing page. And at the beginning of the project is the time to talk to the designer about these marketing efforts and how they can design the site, set the site up that you can best leverage further use and integrate your marketing. The additional marketing integration, you talk about marketing automation software, things that can help capture and nurture leads from your website, because not everybody that comes to your website is going to be ready to buy, to pick up the phone and call, to fill out that contact us form. Mm-hmm. So having these nurture opportunities, we're a HubSpot partner agency. We like and prefer to use the HubSpot platform. We think it's a great marketing software tool that can help capture and nurture leads and better qualify customers or leads throughout to become your customers. But talk about these different options. Understand, talk about the marketing you're going to use and understand how that can be set up and integrated into your site build.
Very, very important. All right. Well, I think that we've covered quite a bit today, and essentially, what we're hoping to do is, make sure that you understand, the details of your project, what to expect. Hopefully, some of the items that we've outlined today are going to be helpful with you while you're considering who to choose for your next website design. Hey, Ken, do we have notes?
Yes.
For today's podcast? Where are those going to be located?
You
at?
can get the show notes by going to neongoldfish.com/podcast, and we'll have an outline of everything we talked about, along with a downloadable ebook that covers these same topics, along with the very end of that ebook is actually a worksheet. And the worksheet is meant to be used during your vetting process, your interview process, just covering the points, making sure you don't miss anything. Take some notes on the worksheet. At the end, you can compare and contrast the different folks that you talk to, and hopefully helps you make a good sound decision. And the things we talked about today will give you the knowledge you need to make sure that you understand what to look for.
Awesome. That sounds great. All right. Well, you all have a great day. Until next time, this is Justin and Cam with Neon Noise. Have a great day.
Take care.